Welcome to the Bayesian Conspiracy. I'm Eneasz.
I'm Steven Zuber.
And I'm Jess Dickey.
And not to get all political or anything 2 years before there's even going to be a vote, but hey, let's talk about the presidential candidates.
Just one for today.
Just one for today. Because basically this started because I posted something tongue-in-cheek and everyone was like, what, why? And I'm like, okay, fine. I really like Andrew Yang.
Me too.
Okay, all right.
What was the thing you posted?
Can
you give us background?
I just posted on my blog. Just a simple 2-line post, I guess. All right, I'm going to come out and say it. Anyone who doesn't vote for Andrew Yang is a bad person.
I missed that.
Yeah, and that was just kind of a callback to the old Less Wrong post of Eneasz saying, I'm just going to come out and say it. Anyone who doesn't get cryonics for their children is a bad person, which is actually, like a serious thing I could get behind. But I meant it tongue-in-cheek, right? And then everyone was like, that seems really strange coming from you. I have a hard time seeing you calling people morally bad for their political judgments. I was like, okay, people are taking me way too seriously. I should expand on this.
Or people just don't know you well enough.
Or possibly, yeah. But I linked to an article saying Andrew Yang comes out as ex-goth or something. Which
I did see that one going around.
Yes.
And it's pretty wonderful.
Wait, Andrew Yang came out as ex-goth?
He says he's ex-goth, but can you ever truly be ex-goth?
No, the makeup and stuff just sinks in and becomes part of you.
Exactly. Yeah. So he is pretending to be a normie for a while, I guess.
God, if he came out with like black lipstick and eyeliner, like to give his inauguration speech,
right?
I would probably sob with patriotic pride.
Yes.
Yeah. We finally reached there. It's been a long time since I've actually been excited for any presidential candidate ever, and the reason I posted that was because I was actually excited for Andrew Yang. As my quick pitch to why you guys should vote for him, even though he's sure not to win the primary, but vote for him in the primary then, I guess, at least. Mm-hmm. This sounds really weird to say. The more I read about him, the more I think I like him personally, and I know people are always saying you shouldn't vote for the guy you want to have a beer with, right? Vote for the guy who's actually capable at running the country. And for the most part, I agree with this. But I think people's personality is also important because you can't predict all the shit that's going to happen in 4 years. You could be living at like the height of American peace and prosperity, and suddenly someone flies 2 planes into your 2 biggest towers, and now the world's going to chaos, and no one could predict that. And who you are as a person affects somewhat how you're going to react.
Well, and also, like, isn't the kind of person you want to have a beer with? I'm trying to think of somebody that I wouldn't want to hang out with who I'd also want to be president. Maybe Hillary Clinton might be an example, but I think it'd be interesting talking with Hillary Clinton for, a couple hours.
Yeah, she's not the person I'd chill and have a beer with.
Yeah, although I wouldn't pass up the opportunity.
Right.
Then again, I wouldn't pass up the opportunity to have a beer with Trump either. And that's more out of just like...
For the spectacle.
To finally be able to say things that, I've always wanted to say.
I just want to observe him. Like, is he always as weird as he is when he's... I mean, he has to be, right? In public appearances, he's so weird. He's probably even weirder in non-public appearances.
I mean, he allegedly drinks like 12 Diet Cokes a day and like orders McDonald's every single day and has it delivered to the White House. Like, that sounds like a weird dude, even if he wasn't president, right?
That does sound very American.
It sort of does, but like that's not even. I don't have any friends who eat McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
And not like a judgment thing. It's just like that
shows poor judgment.
Yeah. So just like I for whatever reason, hitting like low-hanging fruit with his food choices, like, cooking an expensive piece of steak and then putting ketchup on it. Like, that's weird, right?
Apparently you've just touched one of Jess's
That is a pet peeve of mine, yes.
Ruining expensive food?
No,
people that...
I like cooking, and I have an ex who I would, like, spend a long time marinating a nice steak and then, like, cooking it, and then he would put ketchup on it, and I was just like, why would you do this to me personally?
but what if they like it better with ketchup?
Yeah, you did like it better with ketchup.
Then get a cheap piece of meat that doesn't take the long. Like you can put ketchup on anything, right? And it tastes the exact same. It's so overpowering.
Well, whenever I go to a bar and I ask for a Coke and vodka, people ask me what kind of vodka you want with that. I'm like, get me the cheap stuff. I'm putting it in Coke. I won't be able to tell.
Right.
So,
that's what the Coke is for.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but if you mixed Coke, if you drink Coke like with 3 parts Coke and 1 part $60 vodka, we'd think you're weird, right?
Right. So, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, what if you're having a really expensive whiskey that's been aged in a barrel for however long they do the whiskey things. I don't know shit about whiskey.
And you mix it with Coke.
Wait, okay. You could overpower it with Coke and ruin it, right? Or you can add just a little bit of Coke, just like to enhance the flavor. And maybe that's what he was doing with the ketchup. It's not like he was smothering it with ketchup,
it's possible.
right?
He was smothering it with ketchup.
Aww.
Anyway, let's get back to Andrew Yang.
I feel bad about shaming people for what they like. You know?
Me either.
No,
but
I do
let's
too.
just be fair. Trump is not a person of moderation of anything, right? So you can bet without looking at anything, it's probably too much. And I'm always dwelling on the food because I remember this was like a thing for years when Obama put Dijon mustard, and it was like how unpresidential or something. Remember
Dijon mustard?
Yeah. I don't know why, but
Okay.
yeah, and the tan suit thing that was on the news for months. So you mentioned it's been years since you were excited about a candidate. Was it like 2008? The last time you were excited, or was it before that?
With the original Obama run?
Yeah,
I was somewhat excited about that too.
I don't remember.
I think-
I don't think I knew anybody who wasn't swept up in how exciting that was.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I was also turning 18 because I'm secretly a baby. So
right. I was excited for Obama, but not quite the same as this because there were other options that didn't suck in 2008. Whereas, like, I cannot vote for most of the Democratic primary candidates right now because they all voted for Fosta Sesta. And I have a hard rule that I will never, ever vote for anyone who voted for Fosta Sesta.
unless they're running against Donald Trump in the primary in 2020,
I will never, ever vote for anyone who voted for Fosta Sesta.
that's super annoying.
I know. I've had a number of people say that, and I guess I should address it at some point. To me, someone who voted for that, it shows their absolute lack of character and the fact that they're willing to sacrifice whoever they need to, especially the most powerless, if it'll get them political advantage. And to me, that says they would be more than happy to usher me into the ovens or wherever if they needed to do it to win an election. And I'm just not okay with that.
Wait a sec. Can you define what Fosta Sesta is? I know you talked about it on other podcasts, but just in case people are listening the first time.
Oh, okay.
And wondering why you're running straight to the Holocaust with it. So what makes that the same as Hitler lining people up in Auschwitz?
Because it is singling out the most vulnerable in our population for further abuse and degradation of their lives.
Can you define what it is?
Fosta Sesta is the bill that supposedly is supposed to make human trafficking illegal, which is dumb because, first of all, human trafficking is already illegal. But it was touted as, we all think that sex slaves are bad, so you should vote for this. And literally everyone who's ever been in the sex worker industry, anyone who's known any sex workers, anyone who knows anything about women's issues went to the lawmakers and were like, hey, what this actually does is make the lives of sex workers much more dangerous. It forces them back into the streets, back into under the quote-unquote protection of pimps. It takes power away from people to choose their clients and to be safe, and makes everything risky again.
Was prostitution legal for a while and I missed the memo?
It was never technically legal, but there was online resources where you could advertise and where you could screen your clients and things like that. And Fosta Sesta not only got rid of that, it gutted a lot of internet protections for even people who aren't doing anything with sex or with pornography. It's probably the reason why Tumblr went all crazy anti-porn. Now a website can be held...
Like, can just be deleted.
Yeah. Well, the website can be, the owner of a website can be held in criminal contempt, like go to jail, if anyone on their website did use their website for anything that might be sex and money related, prostitution related.
Wasn't Tumblr's thing that it hosted child pornography for years?
No.
And that I'm pretty sure that was a big part of it. You had a EULA that said you can be 13 to use this place, and we're not going to check if you post nudes of yourself. And there were tons of nudes of children on there for years. So, like, Pornhub's fine. You can still post your own amateur content in Pornhub.
Yeah.
I don't know the ins and outs, and you know way more about this than I do, but I'm just thinking, like, the Tumblr thing, I think, was largely due to the fact that they went unchecked with a bunch of stuff that we all probably agree is not cool to have on the web, right? But the rest of your point stands.
Yeah.
Except for the part where you're running all the way to saying that they would sell out. I know you're being hyperbolic, but where they would sell out anybody.
Not anybody, but they would sell out me if it was an advantageous to them. If for some reason I was a hated minority and people didn't care about me, okay, I like Archer, great show, right? The cartoon show. In the very first episode, though, they have a dead hookers in the trunk joke. His friend at the time says, don't we call them call girls? And Archer goes, no, when they're dead, they're just hookers, right? Which, I guess that's funny. But again, it's like sex workers don't count as people. Even up to a few years ago, it was okay to joke about how they aren't people. I knew some sex workers, probably still know some sex workers in my life, and I'm not okay with that at all. And so it really bothers me when someone's like, okay, here's people that no one cares about. They joke about how inhuman they are. Let's make their lives even worse and less safe. That's what they were doing for political advantage. And so if I was someone that society didn't care all that much about and considered borderline unhuman anyway, then the politician that voted for Fosta Sista would be just as happy to vote for something that would make my life more dangerous for whatever little political advantage.
So, I guess two things. One, it depends on, the era. I'm not defending the Archer joke, but like the joke that like X person isn't human. I've said on the show that like when somebody's handing me coffee at the drive-thru, they're not like a person to me. They're a coffee delivery they're a coffee delivery machine, right?
Yeah.
So like in that sense, it's dehumanizing.
Yes.
And so othering people to the point of non-humanness isn't necessarily a sign of psychopathy or anything like that.
But there isn't a whole culture about how it's okay to laugh about dead coffee salesmen.
No, probably not. And I guess I didn't know a lot of people in the dead hooker comedy community, but was there any impact that was positive to this about like actually doing anything about sex trafficking?
No.
Was there
made
any
things worse?
Was there any plausible way that it could have?
Even law enforcement came out and said this will make our jobs harder. It will make sex trafficking worse, and it has.
Okay, all right. I mean, I was going to say, if it did make sex trafficking harder to do,
right,
then I was like, hey, you know what? That sucks. But maybe including all this, Puritan bullshit about prostitution is the only way to get it bipartisanly passed.
Yeah.
Then it's like, all right, that's the cost we paid to help with some slavery issues, right? But if it didn't even do that, then that's super annoying.
No, it's forced things back deeper underground and has made things worse.
Womp.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
So anyways, long-ass tangent. None of that is relevant to why I like Andrew Yang, aside from the fact that he didn't vote for it, which I realize is only because he's not a politician and he didn't have the opportunity to vote for it. But from the things I've read about his personality, he seems like the kind of person who wouldn't have voted for it anyway.
Yeah, or at least he would have had some kind of thoughtful process behind why he did or didn't vote for it, as opposed to knee-jerk, sex trafficking, gotta vote against that.
Yeah.
Or it'll look bad.
Sex trafficking is the current satanic cults.
Well, yeah, and I guess like you said, it is political expediency and whatever, all that stuff, but that's just politics, which again, it sucks and that's a drag, but like if anyone's like, hey, no, we can't do this, they would be thrown through the mud and be like, look, that person's, pro-sex trafficking.
There's 6 people, I think it was 6 people that voted against it. Extremely small number, but there were a few.
Yeah, and I'm sure if they were big figures, they would have got a bunch of shit for it.
I don't know. If they were big figures, they could have said, hey, this bill is bullshit and this is why.
I guess it's just, it's politics on the big scale, but even like at a low scale, the standing up and saying this is a bad idea and I'm going to side with the criminals or I'm going to side with the drug dealers or something. People will take advantage of that to say, look, they're a terrible person. We should take away their power.
Well,
right?
I mean, and that's exactly what happens and how you get to, look, this person sided with the Jews. He's a terrible person.
Yeah, I prefer more people to stand up for their actual principles.
I do too. I'm just saying it's not don't get me wrong. I'm very much for that, but it's not a sign of a monster or a gas chamber loving asshole.
No.
To endorse that.
I think evil is pretty banal. It's not monsters and mutants. It's people who are just doing some expediency things here and there, and sometimes things get run away. With that. So I don't think any of these people are evil. I just hate them for not being at least a little bit good.
All right. Well, we'll table all that for a while because I have a lot more to say about that, especially given the upcoming election.
Yeah.
But I like Andrew Yang too.
Okay.
So I think that's great.
Yeah. So no, Andrew Yang. The reasons that I'm excited for actual Andrew Yang, in addition to not having any viable other people I can vote for, is that he seems to be kind of more or less our people. He comes from Silicon Valley entrepreneurship culture.
Just like the rest of us.
Well, he is very concerned about future tech issues that are coming up. And as far as I can tell, he's the only candidate who actually can see the looming AI apocalypse coming and is trying to do something about it and meet the future head on, instead of just doing the normal rote things that everyone else is doing. We're like, hey, let's work on the economy and keep the military strong and do whatever it is that we do.
Yeah, let's maintain the status quo.
Right.
Maybe make things slightly better.
Yeah, exactly.
He's non-disruptive ways.
He's like, as an asteroid is streaming towards the Earth, all the other politicians are worried about unemployment rates and crime rates, which are also things to worry about, but no one's fucking looking at the asteroid. And he's like, we should do something about this fucking asteroid.
Yeah, and I think it's great. He has a literacy with tech and with, I don't know, a level of in-touchness that I can't, because the last 3 years have taken, 50 years. I can't remember if this has been around before, right? Where, I think Obama he definitely made noises about like automation and stuff. And in fact, the White House, had that memo like his last month in office about, by 2030, we estimate 25% of jobs will be automated or something.
Oh.
They conducted some study about, like waitress jobs, retail jobs, and driving jobs. Yeah. Like all of those are going away in the next 15 years, next 11 years by a lot of estimates. I think MIT had a concurrent study that also came to that same conclusion. So, I mean, he's aware of it, but yeah, Yang's big on that. He's not just up there complaining either. He's got solutions, which I like too.
Yeah. I mean, for starters, he's proposing creating a Department of Technology and a Secretary of Technology, which I'm shocked that no one else has done this yet, considering how freaking important that is in the current day.
Yeah, our current president conducts his policies directly off Twitter, and yet
and then our secretary, or what is it, the head of our Information Security Council or something, whatever, Chris Christie, I forget what his title was. When he had that tweet that he forgot to put a space between the period and the next and the next word, that HTML can render that as a hyperlink.
Oh.
And so somebody bought that domain and said Trump sucks or something and just put that on there.
Awesome.
And he's like, I've been hacked. It's this.
Oh no.
And it's like, you don't know how a hyperlink works. And this is the guy who's our chief in this area in the country or in the White House. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have tech literate people actually in charge of tech decisions.
Yeah, cybersecurity stuff too. Thinking about the Russian hackers. I had something else and now I forget.
No, it's good. Yang's literacy on the influence of technology in our lives in a way that social media platforms have gotten away with basically everything to this point by just saying, oh, we're just a platform, and people sign up for it and so we can do whatever we want, and they submit their data to us and they said it's okay. And he's like, yeah, that's really weird. We wouldn't sign up. We wouldn't be okay with that literally anywhere else in our lives. We can't let that keep going either. So we got to start holding them accountable too.
Yeah, he's proposed a policy of everyone owns their own information.
The privacy issue.
Yeah,
that was the thing I was trying to think of.
That the companies have to tell you what information they are collecting on you and what they are doing with it, and you can tell them no. Which
would be pretty cool.
Yeah, we should own our own information.
I wonder how that'll ever pass, because something like that.
You can ask them to give it to you. Which a guy in my book club gets so fucking pissed at his phone. He's like, I can enter my contacts into my phone, but it will not tell me what I entered into it unless I agree to these terms of service, which I refuse to agree to. So he now cannot get that. I mean, he already knows the information, but he's fucking pissed off that he can enter it into the phone, but the phone won't give it back to him.
That's weird, right?
Yeah.
There are social media phone examples. I have a credit card with Chase, and somewhere in my 40-page agreement says hey, we're going to give your information to, I guess, everything that you buy and when you buy it and where. We're going to give all the information to whoever wants it. And, Experian and the other big
3 credit agencies.
Yeah, the big credit agencies, we're going to give it all to them. So I don't have an agreement with Experian. Is it Experian? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Experian's one of them.
But they keep track of my credit score. If they have a data leak that I didn't know that I had a contract with them and my information's out, well, that sucks, and that's my problem now, right?
Yeah.
So it would be and when did that act pass? It was recently in history, where I'm allowed to get a copy of my credit report for free.
Yeah.
Was that in the 2000s or late 90s? It doesn't matter. It was way too late to be conscionable. Yeah. The fact that I had to pay somebody to be all right, you guys are using this fucking magic number to determine my life. Can I please see it? And they're like, yeah, sure, give us $200. And that's a weird way to go about doing business, right?
That's taking you hostage.
And before we jump onwards, his Department of Technology, he specifically called out, would look into AI existential risk related items and keep the White House appraised of them.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty fucking cool. What other candidate even knows what AI existential risk is?
Yeah, I think if anyone wants to hear a bit about how he talks and how he's engaged on things, and he talks like a politician because he's trying to, but he doesn't talk like a normal politician because he's not been inundated with his whole life. But he was on the Joe Rogan Experience for 3 hours. He was on Sam Harris's podcast.
I heard him on Freakonomics, which was a really good episode as well.
Yeah, and I mean he's down to earth and that's not a a quality of why he should be president. But it makes him fun to listen to. And I guess by that I mean that he's in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think being a good communicator is actually a really good quality for a president to have.
Yeah.
I just meant like his relatableness is something that I think is a good quality, but not necessarily one that is necessary for being a good president. But, I remember like when Mitt Romney was trying to, like, he was one of the poor folks that wanted to vote for him, and be like, oh yeah, NASCAR, I have some friends who own some teams, or, or it's like, all right, cool, thanks. That's, you really get it.
Yeah.
You spend more on lessons with your dressage horse than I'll earn in my entire life. So like that level of like disconnect is super annoying, but it doesn't necessarily invalidate him as a good president, right?
Right.
I mean, the fact that he's a religious nutjob who wears magic underwear might, but it honestly, if he ran, that's my thing, and I get where you're coming from taking this stance with that bill that I can't remember what it's called.
FOSTA, SISTA.
Yeah.
FOSTA, SISTA. But like, if Mitt Romney ran as a Democrat in 2020, I'd vote for him in a hot second if he won the primary.
Right.
I mean, it could be George Bush, or I guess no, because he ran twice already, right? But whatever.
Yes. It could be the first George Bush. He only won once.
He's dead. But
yeah. Wait, is he?
George H.W. Bush, the dad?
Yeah. Oh, damn it. When did that happen?
A couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
Or no, wait. Yeah, it was a couple years ago because Trump wasn't invited and then went anyway to his funeral. It was fun.
Wow. All right.
And it was cute because
he
like
crashed a funeral.
George W. Bush and
Clinton.
Michelle Obama. They have like this cute little relationship, and like apparently whenever they see each other, he like sneaks her candy. And so there's a video like panning over the audience of the funeral, and he's like handing her like a piece of candy from his pocket. So like little things. Anyway, yes, Yang cares about AI and technology and automation.
Yeah.
But all right, cool. He cares. What's he going to do about it? What's his brilliant idea to help solve this problem?
Well, the 3-letter summary is UBI, which is
Sounds like a sexually transmitted disease. Can you explain what that is?
a universal basic income.
Oh, that sounds like way worse. A socialist.
Oh, damn!
You get out of here.
All right. Well, never mind. I can't vote for a damn commie.
Well, his 3 big policies are that he supports UBI, he wants to have Medicare for all, and he wants to have human-centered capitalism. So they all seem a bit socialist.
Yeah, and in fact he would be running socialist if that was not less viable than being as fringe as he is and running a Democrat. So
I don't know if he would, because he is a capitalist, right? He's an entrepreneur.
Well, he had said on the Rogan podcast that he's running Democrat because it's a 2-party system.
Right. Yeah.
So
I'm sure he would be running as whatever he could to get attention to UBI. I mean, he knows he's not going to win, as far as I can tell, and his major goal at this point looks to be shifting the Overton window to include discussion about UBI. And the Overton window, for people who are, I guess, unfamiliar, is a fancy term for what is in the realm of the politically acceptable to talk about, to do. Like, hosting a communist revolution is not anything that anyone in government is even willing to entertain. Right now, UBI is kind of outside that window as well.
Yeah, so the idea, and he said something to that effect. I mean, he thinks that there's a chance he could win. I mean, people have come from behind before, and he's getting a lot of traction. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, just being on Rogan's podcast means that, I don't know, 10 million Americans heard him and, got to at least get exposed to him.
Yeah.
So, the more of that goes on, the better. I'm going to vote for him in the primaries, but, oh wait, I need to register as a Democrat before I can vote in the primaries, right? I'm
not sure. Colorado recently changed how the primaries work.
Oh, that's right.
It's different this year.
All right, well, I'll double check.
Yeah, I'll have to double check as well. But he's proposing a UBI, which is only $1,000 a month. So I'm not sure. Not quite livable, but would help a lot.
Yeah, that's like $12,000 a year.
Yeah.
For everybody, regardless of your income bracket.
For every 18 years old or older citizen.
Right. And anyone who isn't already accepting government aid.
Right.
If you're making $1,200 a month on government aid, then if they offer you $1,000, then they can say, no, I'm going to keep what I've got, and that's an option. But if you're making $800 a month on government aid, you can take the $1,000 instead, but not in addition to. So he did this on the Rogan podcast, which is fun. The math. Every American that's 18 plus times $1,000 a month is $3 trillion or something. Mm-hmm. So he's like, no, it gets down to like 1.5 really quick, and he burned through that in his 5-minute spiel.
I don't have full faith in his numbers. I think they're not bad, but I mean, for example, Amazon pays 0 in taxes, right? For a company that pulls in a ludicrous amount of money, and yeah, he wants to capture some of that. I don't know how realistic it is, but on the other hand, I also think it's more important to be talking about the idea right now than to be trying to hammer down every single number. Like part of it was, part of his numbers were once everyone's getting $1,000 a month, there's going to be less people who have to show up in the emergency room because they couldn't afford their $50 medication, right? And so we were going to see substantial savings from that sort of thing and from other knock-on effects of people having enough money to live.
And to buy stuff.
Yeah. And yeah, part of it was also if you give poor people money, they put it back into the economy right away. So that helps speed up the economy. But again, that's more of a theoretical, we don't know exactly how much it'll help, and so putting a number estimate on it is kind of wishy-washy, right? It's like, maybe you'll get that, maybe you'll get less, maybe you'll get more, who knows? But
yeah, he's got some interesting numbers.
Yeah.
He thinks that implementing this UBI, or I think he's calling the freedom dividend.
Yes.
which he said market tested better.
And it
really
sounds
funny.
much better, too.
It sounds very patriotic.
Right,
Yeah.
it's my dividend for being a citizen of this country.
That's right.
He says that he believes this would permanently grow the economy by 12.56 to 13.10%, or about 2.5 trillion by 2025, and that it would increase the labor force by 4.5 to 4.7 million people. Okay. His math behind that is not on his website, but it's probably somewhere else. It'd be interesting to check up on it.
I'm wondering if it's in his book that I haven't read.
It might be in his book.
Yeah, and I think we'll do a full-length episode on UBI, probably coming up soon because we're talking about it now. But
yeah, we had a really good question sent in. Was it from the Reddit about UBI?
Yeah, I think so, or an email.
I want to cycle back to that.
Yeah, we'll definitely hit that at some point because there's it's something I'm interested in, and I'm not an economist, but frankly, it sounds good to me. So
he's also proposing what I like to call a income tax on robots, but which is more commonly known as a VAT tax, value added tax. But in one specific case, he literally calls out the robotic trucking industry is going to be saving about $168 billion a year if they replace all their truckers. Let's tax a portion of that and give it back to the truckers that are being displaced from their job. Because even if you tax that at 20%, they're still saving well over $100 billion a year, and that money can go back into the truckers. It's basically another way to fund the UBI.
right.
He says you would have carbon taxes because it sucks to have the climate go crazy on us. And those carbon taxes, instead of just being a drain on everyone, which can cause riots, as we saw in Paris, he goes into the freedom dividend. So the extra taxes that people are paying on carbon will be paid mostly by the heavy users like industry and will go back to everyone.
Which sounds kind of fair.
Yeah.
And that's always what bugged me is if one company managed to get the patent on all the self-driving cars somehow. So not just trucks, but Ubers and all of those. There'll be a time, maybe in 20 years, where like owning a personal car will be like a weird eccentric thing that people do, or just old people do.
I can't wait to not have to own a car.
I know,
Me too.
right?
Or to not have to, first of all, drive a car myself, and secondly, drive a car myself with other humans on the road with me.
Yeah.
We're so bad at it. We suck at driving. Why did we think this was a good idea?
It was a quick idea to have, I guess, there's perks, but yeah, it's insane. And we're gonna look back and be like, that's so weird we let people drive cars. And it's so weird that
So many people die
I know.
all the time.
And then at some point there'll be cars like that don't have steering wheels because it's like, all right, there's gonna be no situation where you're better at this than I am, ape. You just keep your hands off and you can sit in the back.
I'll be happy to not have to find a place to store this huge piece of machinery for 99% of the time when I'm not using it.
That costs hundreds of dollars. Well, yeah, if you're paying insurance and stuff, hundreds of dollars a month. And so if I could order a Lyft and they're all over the place because there's parking lots are now just for, I'm assuming, public vehicles. Then I just get into it and punch in where I'm going into my phone, and it takes me there, and it's probably crazy cheap because I'm not paying a human to drive it, and insurance would be cheaper on that stuff too. Then why would I pay to have my own car and manage all that stuff and fix it and all that?
Yeah, pay for the insurance.
Yeah.
There'd probably be places where it's still advantageous to own your own car, like in rural areas where there isn't much service.
Sure. And, if it's a dirt road or something, I've got friends who live down dirt roads and, that'll be harder to do, whatever. But in 20 years, who knows? But what I was saying is that if one person owned all of that, we would have 5% of the public out of jobs. It's 3.5, I think, is involved in driving at some capacity, right? We've got all those people just out of income. And then somebody, a trillionaire. And it would be insane not to find a way to capitalize on some of the stuff that they're making off of that, right? Just because it's my inner, what do you call the like
Egalitarian?
Yeah, I guess.
You have to at some point figure out how to all the wealth that is going to be created by the robots doing all the labor and redistribute it to the humans.
Agreed. Yeah, it sounds straightforward.
And a UBI is one of the better ways to do that, in my opinion. It's gotta get implemented at some point before we have full automation. So we should probably get started on it.
That's the thing is we're looking at like 11 years for 20% of jobs, right?
Yeah, which is not full automation, but at some point there's going to be almost no job a human can do that's productive.
Right.
And at that point, what are we going to do? Starve to death because the machines can do all the food growing?
Yeah.
It seems kind of dumb.
We could get rid of a lot of these fake jobs that we currently have.
Oh my god, yeah.
Also, poverty is a thing that exists. That this would help alleviate considerably.
Yeah, and Harris had his analogy or his thought-provoking intuition pump of just like, the trillionaires hiding behind their razor wire walled compounds and all the poor hungry people just banging at the doors. Because it sounds like just it makes sense to get ahead of that rather than just wait for it to happen and see what we can do afterwards, right? Because that sounds like it'd never work.
And before, the trillionaires had to at least pay enough other humans to defend their land, and that pay would have to include enough to pay for those humans' friends and family, right? Because otherwise, I'm not going to defend someone just so that my brother can starve. And with fully automated everything, they can create guards don't need pay.
Yeah, we're on track to get fucked here, and Yang sees that and is trying to do something about it.
Right,
so.
And no one else really is.
I mean, he has other non-tech related things that I like too. There was one thing that he mentioned about immigration that, I mean, so he's pro, he's not pro open border. I mean, he's pro knowing who's coming in and out of the country and stuff, especially if everyone who's a citizen gets $1,000 a month.
Right.
But there was another thing that I liked that he'd said, hey, if you come here and go to college, rather than like go home and compete with us in the world market, we'll give you a green card. Like just stay here and keep working. We trained you up. We want to take advantage of that. That sounds. I'm not an expert, but that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
At least as intuition to me. So, and I think I haven't heard anything that he said that's crazy that I don't like. Everything that he's
probably said at least one thing that I dislike because everyone will.
I'm just saying on the Rogan and the Sam Harris podcast, so 4.5 hours of content. He didn't say anything. I'm like, oh man, that's a drag. I wish you weren't on that.
Right.
He also said that he would want to decriminalize. He would want to, like, on his first day in office, he'd want to pardon everybody who was put in jail for a nonviolent drug crime.
Nice. Yes.
And he says that it would be a very busy day, but he'd love to go to every prison and high five everyone on their way out.
Awesome.
He's like, yeah, it'd be crazy busy, but it'd be the best day ever.
He also said he wants to decriminalize small amounts of opioids. So people who are right now, I mean, it sucks if you're using opioids, especially just to escape from life, but you shouldn't be thrown into prison for it.
Oh, yeah.
I think, non-violent drugs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would sure be nice if we could just finally get past that. That'll be another thing that we look back on. And
that's another non-UBI, non-tech thing, just a little human-centered thing, since that's what you're talking about.
And it's just weird. It's surreal when you take like an outside view to look at this and be like, yeah, no, the current situation makes perfect sense. We need to keep this under control. Because I mean, we've talked about drug stuff in the past, but like, the fact that weed is illegal and alcohol isn't, and I don't smoke weed or drink all that much. I've never owned a pipe and I've never bought pot, so like I'm not defending this because I love using it.
Yeah.
It's just like I've seen people on pot and I've seen people drunk, and I'm like, why is this one okay?
Yeah. Tradition.
Exactly, but how fucking stupid, right?
Yeah.
So,
are you living in Denver County?
No.
Ah, okay.
Why?
Because
What's
you
Denver
have
County up to?
until Tuesday, if you're in Denver County, to get your ballot in. That's for decriminalizing psychedelic mushrooms.
Oh yes, I've heard about this. Fingers crossed.
Oh,
that's my vote.
I haven't heard about this.
Oh yeah. In Denver, it's on our ballot right now that to decriminalize psychedelic mushrooms. It would be the lowest priority among Colorado law enforcement, and no money could be spent on enforcing that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. They're one of the safest substances you can consume. I mean,
it might make you vomit. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it also, I don't know what it's gonna look like with people being in a really altered state, like being in public, having freakouts, or trying to drive or something like that. So that might be interesting. But I feel like aren't they legal in Amsterdam?
I think pretty much everything's legal in Amsterdam.
Well, and I don't think this would invalidate the laws against like public intoxication, right?
Yeah.
No.
Like right now, you can't be drunk and driving in public either. So
right.
It's like,
and you can't be like obnoxiously drunk in public.
Right. So this would be just the same thing. Like if you're going to trip outside, trip quietly, politely, just like when you're wandering around day drunk.
Yes.
So
Right.
I don't suspect those numbers to go up all that much. They might, but I mean, no one. I've never taken mushrooms. If it's anything like other psychedelics, no one's going to take these and be like, I should start driving. Like they're going to take this like, I'm so glad I can't move right now because if I was driving, I would kill myself in a hot second.
There's probably going to be some
There always
bad
is.
things that happen, but I think that the benefits of legalizing it and not having people go to jail over possession of something that's safer than aspirin.
Yeah. All the horrors of the drug war are not worth it.
Yeah. It's back to the whole regulation discussion.
I think the pot industry in Colorado has raised so much money over the last few years that they're like, all right, the schools are taken care of. Let's start looking at homeless shelters. And so
Surprisingly not.
Really?
Yeah.
I read something just about this. I didn't save it though.
Well, because the money is being funneled in creative ways.
Well, I mean, so it's earmarked for that, but I know that they're at least expanding what they're planning on spending the increased tax revenue on, including homeless shelters. But what is it, sitting around not being used yet? Yeah,
the money can only be used for certain things, and some schools are not really seeing any benefit because of it, because of how the laws are written.
Maybe a couple years.
Yeah.
I mean, when was pot legalized? Like 3 years ago? So 3
maybe
or 4?
4 or 5.
Oh, it would have been Obama era, so it just seems like forever ago. Or
Right.
it varies. My perception of time is weird lately.
I mean, it's legal now, so it's always been legal, right?
That's right. Yeah, I don't remember ever a time where it ever wasn't.
It's amazing how quickly we adapt to things.
Right. I don't have much else.
I kind of wanted to talk about the other 2 points in his 3 big platforms, which was the Medicare and the human capitalism.
Yes.
The Medicare for All would be a public option or similar program, providing health care to all Americans. The idea behind that is it would shift the way doctors are compensated to promote holistic and empathic care, which means doctors currently are incentivized to kind of have a factory system in their offices where they just bring as many patients in as possible, see them as quickly as possible. Doctors work crazy hours. They have a lot of responsibilities, and a lot of patients fall through the cracks there. So Andrew Yang, you can find out more about this on his website too, but he was talking about a system, I think it was for Inuits. I might be confusing that. There was a system that he really liked where they were doing this holistic and empathic care, where they're spending more time with patients and getting psychologists involved and trying to really combine the treating mental and physical illness, which tend to be strongly correlated. So I like that.
Yeah.
And this would also create incentives for and invest in innovative treatment methods and methodologies, which is not explained, and I'd like to hear more about how he plans to do that, I guess.
All I know is that, well, I know 2 things, I guess. One of the only things I know is that every other first world country on Earth has a public option system where everyone is just covered. And they all have better health care than us, and I don't know why we haven't implemented that yet, because our healthcare system is completely fucked.
Yeah.
So this would do that, and I would be very happy. And the other thing I know is that when I was on Medicare for 8 months, it was the best medical care I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Primarily because I could just go to a doctor when I needed to go to a doctor, and that made a huge difference. Like nowadays, I'm like, could go to see a doctor, but it's going to cost me a bunch of money. I have an appointment set 2 months from now anyway. I'm just going to hold on until then. And when I had Medicare, I was like, okay, this will cost me $3 cash. I can go. I when I needed physical therapy, I actually got better because I could go to physical therapy. Every other time in my life when I've needed the physical therapy, I went to one session, paid my $70, and then went home and did the rest of the stuff myself forever, right? And when I was on Medicare, they actually walked me through a program where after 2 weeks, they're like, okay, now you can start doing this instead. And oh my God, it made so much of a difference.
Yeah. And I think to Jess's point, that you brought up about a more holistic healthcare approach too, doctors' jobs are going to be automated away too. Not necessarily the person that you go see to tell you what's wrong with you, but the
diagnostic process. Yeah, and then also a lot of them are already I see a psychiatrist via the web, and a lot of doctors are switching to the telecommunication style therapists and whatnot. There's not very many procedures that you do need to be in person to do, and I think there's going to be fewer of them the better technology we get for self-diagnostic tools.
Robotic surgery is becoming a thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Doctors' jobs will, again, there'll be purpose for medically trained humans, but I think less, and it won't be as valuable a profession when whatever the next version of Watson can tell you what's wrong with you when you walk into the room. So yeah, that'll be cool. And what is human-centric capitalism?
Just a couple more things about the Medicare.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yang says that Medicare for all would fix the problem of people going bankrupt when they get sick or injured.
Oh, God, yeah.
What is it, like 50% of Americans can't afford a $500 expense that's unplanned?
I don't know what the percent is, but
I think it's something along maybe 45% or something.
If it's anywhere near that high, then that's really upsetting. And
that's roughly the case, where
yeah.
A lot of people
roughly
live
one
paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, and so the idea of like, oh no, your car needs repairs, that's a financial ruin for, like, if not most people, like at least a third, maybe 40%.
Yeah, but
and
even if you like have a medical procedure that's $5,000, right? There's some people where that's ruinous too. That
yeah.
Not only do they not have anything close to $5,000 in the bank, but then you have weeks of recovery. You have all that time that you can't go to work, which means you aren't making the money which you don't have anyway. Yeah, it's bankruptcy time.
Yeah. It would fix people's current shitty policies that don't afford them the opportunity to receive proper care. So that would be
my life prior to this.
Yeah, well, a lot of, preventative healthcare just doesn't get done because people don't have the money or the time or the incentives to go see doctors, and that inflates healthcare costs down the road because they're not getting things treated or, receiving vaccines that could have prevented them from receiving a certain illness, etc. So it would let doctors stop working like factory workers. And it would fix that issue where people are relying on their employers for their healthcare benefits.
Yes. That's the main reason I'm still working.
Because you need the insurance.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I look at how much it costs to self-insure. I'm like, there's no fucking way I could do this. It is what keeps a lot of people enslaved to the working for the man and not working for themselves.
Yeah, and when I was looking to continue the policy that I had at my last job on the non-employer coverage option, it was $570.16 a month. Yeah, so it was good coverage, but not. I think that's the case. That's the case that the second highest expense behind like rent or mortgage, behind living, is health insurance for the average American, which is insane. It's not even the cost of medicine. It's the cost of like trying to not lose your home and your life. Yeah. I know people who've gone through medical induced bankruptcy or whatever, where double hernia, all right, cool, well, I guess we can get by on one car, whatever. Assessors determine how many cars your family needs and if you get to keep your house and stuff, right? And just because you got sick.
It's ridiculous. I go to the doctor maybe twice a year, sometimes not even that, and I have to, if I were to pay for my own medical insurance, be like $700 a month just so that I can go bankrupt anyway because the medical insurance doesn't cover everything.
Yeah.
I don't see the point in it. And it would give people the flexibility to find the jobs they actually want and to, go into business for themselves, doing things that are more valuable possibly than the bullshit job they may have to have.
And that's one thing that he emphasizes, he keeps going back to in a lot of his dialogue, is that it's very entrepreneurial. And he's like, look, this lets people more do what they want, and if they want to start a business, like again, the $1,000 a month, it's it's not enough to keep you afloat necessarily, but it's enough to buffer if your business starts out small. And so like,
I know at least
what if you want to move, relocate, switch your job, actually develop your life in some positive direction? A lot of people end up stuck. Or it would give people the opportunity to pursue creative like art and creative outlets. It would let people who are caretakers for family members who have elderly or ill family members do that without like having to die or not being able to do it, which is terrible. And it would encourage people to volunteer more and participate in their communities more, where people end up not doing those things as much anymore because they just spend their lives working. Yeah,
it's hard to see how there's downsides. I'm sure there are, but
I think the cost mainly is the downside.
Yeah. That sounds like an acceptable cost to me. Kind of irrespective of the number. There's a way to make this work. We're a very wealthy country.
That like segues pretty well into the human capitalism.
I think you, just to quickly counterpoint that, I think until you run the numbers, you can't necessarily know that.
Well, given the rough estimate that I've heard of like 1.5 trillion for UBI, as far as the impact that the Medicare for All would have on the health insurance industry and what that would do to costs, I don't have good numbers for that, but you're right. Yeah, the costs could be impossible, and somehow the situation we have now could be better than that. So I find that unlikely, but that could well be the case. You're right.
Okay, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's fine. Yeah, human capitalism.
Yeah, what is that? Because the term doesn't seem to mean anything to me on its face.
Yang says our current emphasis on corporate profits isn't working for the majority of Americans, especially with the development of automation and AI looming. So we need to move to a new form of capitalism, human capitalism, that's geared towards maximizing human well-being and fulfillment.
Oh, okay.
So this is basically, he wants to fight the Malachian tendencies, of corporations to value money over people. A couple of examples of that would be like an airline refusing to honor your ticket because they can get more money from a customer who purchases last minute, or a pharmaceutical company charging extortionary rates for life-saving drugs. He wants to switch the measure of the economy from the GDP and the stock market to measures ensuring human thriving. Examples of some measures would be median income and standard of living, health-adjusted life expectancy, mental health, childhood success rates, social and economic mobility, absence of substance abuse, etc.
Suicide rates, too.
Was that on there, too?
Well, if it wasn't, it could be.
It should be if it's not.
Yeah.
I think that was like maybe tied in with the mental health.
Yeah, probably. So, like, I remember the thing about GDP is that, like, if we have a trillionaire owning every car in the country, our GDP will be great as a country, right? Mm-hmm. Even if we have a bunch of people unemployed and a lot of people killing themselves because they can't afford to eat. So, GDP will soon become an obsolete measure of like the success metric of a country. So
it's the whole like what gets measured gets managed.
Right.
He also wants to rein in corporate excesses by appointing regulators, paying them competitive wages so they stay in that role, but then prohibiting them from going into the private industry afterward, because regulators need to be focused on making the right decisions rather than just getting more money.
He had an interesting comment that Congress and the president should be paid a lot more, but also prohibited from moving into lobbying afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Or working for the industries that they regulated and passed laws for or against. And I thought that was an interesting premise. I didn't think about it very much, and I'm sure if I spent a few hours I could come up with things to say on it, but on its face I was like, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, on its face it sounds really sensible.
It just keeps you from working in your own self-interest rather than the interest of the people that you're representing.
Yeah, which is supposed to be your job.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that, there's so many things to dislike about Trump, but one of the things that really gets me is that he seems to be using this mainly as a way to enrich and promote himself.
Yeah, I mean, put that on the list, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, we could go on about it.
Yeah.
Right, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. Leave that in. It's just, it's one of those things that, like, the reason I get quiet and just kind of like, yeah, because it's like, yeah, if that were the only thing, that would be great, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so, where do we, I mean, he takes $3 million trips every week to his private golf course. And, like, he makes no compunctions about hiding the profits.
Right.
And, sure, he gave up all his businesses, but he gave them all to his families and, like, to the Trump, brand, not, they made Jimmy Carter sell his peanut farm. Right? Yeah.
Oh.
Like, because he's going to be a biased president if he he'd be biased towards peanut farmers if he had a stake in the industry, which is ridiculous. And
maybe
okay, so let me rephrase that. It's ridiculous to enforce it with Jimmy Carter and his peanut farm and not do it with Trump and all of his So like the idea of like you can't have a private stake and stuff that you'll be managing as president, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But to say that Jimmy Carter's the risk that he would ruin the country by incentivizing or by benefiting himself as a peanut farmer, and that Trump doesn't run the risk of doing that is madness. Yes, sorry, human-centric or human capitalism.
Yeah, there was one more thing. The government should issue a new currency called the digital social credit.
Oh, this thing.
Yeah, this was interesting. This is a currency that it can be converted into dollars and is used to reward people and organizations who drive social value.
Converted into dollars, the best I heard when I heard him talking about it with someone, I don't remember who, was that like maybe businesses would honor it. You could use it for credits or something. Has he said that he can like literally convert it into dollar currency directly?
That's what he says.
Huh, interesting.
And he says this new currency would allow people to measure the amount of good that they've done, and it would incentivize organizations to target human-centric goals rather than increasing profits.
That sounds really confusing. Does that mean like an influencer like Jenna Marbles or PewDiePie would have all this social capital that they could turn in for like Amazon reward points.
From the example that I heard given, it was something like if an old grandma is in her house and she needs some help with putting up shelves or something, right? And her kids are busy or they live far away, they can't do it. But the guy down the street, he's collecting his $1,000 a month. He's not really doing much of anything, just sort of helping people out now and there. Here's the grandma needs some help, so he comes over, spends an hour, puts up her shelves, and then gets some social credits for it.
So he takes a Instagram photo of himself putting up shelves at his neighbor's house and like gets.
I don't know,
because I mean
it's not as far as I could.
That's the part that sounds weird. Is I have no idea how you would track that and how that would be not just regulated but even measured.
I like the idea of like incentivizing people to like help their neighbors and help other people that need help with their spare time. But I don't know much about this aside from the few things I've heard.
Yeah, my impression was more that it was organizations.
Oh, okay.
Who they were looking at, those targets of increasing the standard of living and mental health issues. So I think it's rewarding people who are actually targeting the goals that we want to see targeted. Although, I don't know. I'm not sure if... Where did you get the example of the grandma?
I think that was the Freakonomics podcast interview.
Huh.
But
then maybe I'm understanding this idea wrong.
I mean, the organization thing makes a lot of sense, but when you put it that way, if you're giving an organization social credits and then allowing them to change those into money, why not just give organizations money like we sort of already do?
Well, because they'd have to do something good to earn it.
Yeah,
in this
but
case.
I mean, we give like homeless shelters tax money.
Yeah, but we don't give Amazon bonus money just for being a big company. But if they built homeless shelters, we might give them extra points for it or something, right?
Or we could give them money.
Yeah, or money. But
I think it's converted into dollars, so it is basically money.
But the thing is that in this case, they'd have to actually do something to earn that, right?
Yes, but I mean, that's the case either way. We could be like, hey, any organization wants to build homeless shelters, here's $1,000, or here's 1,000 social credits that you can turn into dollars.
I see.
We already do one of those.
I guess maybe if it would be like maybe a bonus tax break or something. I'm not really sure.
I think we don't understand this policy.
I definitely don't. Cause
we should read more about it.
I remember him saying something too about, there should be some metric to at least say that it matters. Like how much social value does it add to the world to like stay at home and to raise your kids?
Right.
And it's like actually a lot.
Yeah.
It not just because it's hard work, and it is, but the fact that you're raising people who will eventually join the job, join the workforce and add to the economy and stuff. So like there's an actual dollar amount that you're generating for the country when you stay at home and raise kids.
That is a very labor intensive job.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it's not just labor intensive. It's crazy.
I'm just trying to figure out how we could automate raising kids to realize massive gains.
Matrix style pods.
Yeah,
perfect.
And when they turn 18, pull them out and be like, the real world is exactly like what you've been exposed to. We didn't change anything at all, but you were in the pod where it was a lot cheaper and faster to raise you than having a individual mother for every 2 to 3 kids.
Welcome to the real world, jackass. But I think it's not just that it's hard work, but I think the point that he made on the Rogan podcast, and I'm equating that because I heard it most recently, but he might have made some of the same points on Sam Harris's podcast, was that this, again, being the business-oriented guy that he is, which I think is one of the things that makes him appealing. It doesn't make him just like this bleeding heart, like, isn't that hard? Because it is. But he's like, no, look, it actually is like producing a ton of value for the country. And this is the kind of thing that when you pay for it, it costs an arm and a leg because it's very hard and produces a lot of value. So why isn't it like valued at all when people sacrifice their lives to do it for free? Mm-hmm. So that's I think not just a reflection of the difficulty of the task.
It is valued. It's not like those people starve to death. It's just that the costs are passed on to the other people in their household rather than an employer or the government.
Right, yeah, but wouldn't it be cool if you could raise kids and not like be, again, it's like that's how people stay in bad relationships, right?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, it'd be really cool if you could raise kids for free.
It's just like being hamstrung by your employer for health insurance.
Right.
And it's like now you're hamstrung by your abusive spouse because they pay the bills and you don't want your kids to die. So
yeah. Or like even in a less extreme example, there's kind of the 2-parent trap where you basically need both parents to work in order to afford a house and everything.
Yeah.
And then you have to outsource the care of your children to a nanny or babysitter, which like both of you are working in order to afford. Whereas if there was some kind of digital social currency for having someone that, could stay home and take care of their kid, I feel like that would be a shift in the right direction.
It'd be pretty cool. I don't know much else to add to that. I want to learn more about this digital social currency part of his stuff, but I didn't read much about that yet, so.
Yeah, I've read a bit about it, and I'm a bit confused by how it is going to work. I want to dig more into it as well.
He is polling high enough to enter the debates, so people ask him these questions, we can see his answers.
And one of the major things that drives whether you can get into a debate or not is how many donors you have at under $200.
Right.
I have given him $1. And maybe I'll give him more, I don't know. But I gave him $1 so that my name is added to that list.
That's what it was. It wasn't poll numbers. It was the minimum donor number. So he has reached that threshold.
Yes.
But yeah, for $1, you can keep him on these. I don't know how these metrics work, but I do like the idea. I'm not I don't know enough about this. I'm not a political scientist, but it makes sense that there should be some barrier to where, like, if I ran for president, it should be fair that no one take me seriously until, like, I get some actual support.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I like that it's a minimum number of donors and not a minimum dollar amount.
Right.
That sounds like that was something that we foresaw the trouble of right away. And I'm glad that's not a thing.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Andrew Yang, he is one of us, and I like him.
I like him too. I think that I like that he's establishing measures of human flourishing rather than the focus on finances. That's my favorite thing. And he's pushing the correct policies, such as UBI and the Medicare, despite the fact that it's going to be incredibly difficult. I appreciate that, that he's shifting the Overton window towards we need to talk about these things, even if he doesn't get elected, which I hope he does, but I'm just really happy to see politicians that aren't insane.
It is really cool. Yeah, like you said, whether or not he gets elected, like, he's now at the point where he'll be on TV talking about these things to the country. And so this will be in the public awareness.
Hopefully.
Unfortunately, if he doesn't get elected, and we're talking about this again in 2024,
right?
By then, we're going to be coming up on way too late, but at least the conversations will be started. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. At the very least, he can get on TV in 2031 and say, I told you so, losers.
The more people that we can push this info and idea into, the better, and he is doing that. He's like, hey, UBI is a thing. Automation is coming. This is a good way to head it off. Even if I'm not elected, know about this idea. You guys are all going to be coming back to it soon.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and other politicians are going to have to respond to it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go on to our less wrong posts.
Sure, but before I forget,
yes,
I've got two side topics to indulge, both about cinema and television.
We haven't seen Endgame yet, so you can't talk about it.
That's fine.
Okay.
So one's really fast. The Netflix show I've been talking about the last few episodes, the Santa Clarita Diet, isn't being picked up for season 4.
I heard about that and I immediately thought about you, because I was like, Steven loves this show.
And I'm pretty sure it's popular. Apparently it's not popular enough to pick up for season 4, but it was hilarious. I loved it, and that's a bummer that it won't be on, because it was...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't dying in love with it, but it was great, and it would have been more fun if it went on. But so Endgame did come out,
okay,
and I won't talk about it.
I've heard it's pretty darn good.
It was pretty darn good.
I hope to see it really soon.
That's my summary. I won't talk about it here because I talked about it for 2 hours on the Doofcast.
Congrats, dog!
It was great. Yeah,
awesome.
That came out yesterday, so Friday the 3rd, today the 4th.
Today is the 4th, yeah.
Yeah, so Friday the 3rd.
Is when that episode came out?
Yep.
Cool.
So it's out. You can guys go check it out at the wonderful doofmedia.com.
I saw that it was out, and I did not listen to it.
Good. The first 19 minutes is spoiler-free.
Okay.
So if anyone...
Does it still have Stevens in it?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
But I guess, quick disclaimer, two of them. One, I was recording on my computer's microphone because my headset that I was using has great ear part, but bad mic part for recording. It's great for phone calls. So that's a drag. And also, I was way chattier than I think I took up more than a third of the airtime. Mainly, sorry, Matt. I cut you. I responded to a lot of Scott's prompts and didn't give Matt a chance to, and I felt bad like halfway through, and I just kind of kept doing it. So
felt bad, but not bad enough to stop.
But bad enough to apologize.
Yes.
So, it was great, and when I drag you guys to Endgame, we can all talk about it, and then you guys can listen to the whole episode. So
fuck yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah, please drag me to Endgame.
Yes.
I want to see it. I never have been to a movie by myself. I don't watch TV by myself. It's just easy to be like, deprioritize this thing, and it's easy to do if somebody else is there to be excited about it.
I'm all over it. I have no trouble being excited enough to get you there.
Yeah.
I accidentally saw a preview for Joker, and now I actually want to see it.
Oh, really?
So like I might actually go to see more than one movie this year.
I'm actually curious. Well, you're going to see more than one movie because you're going to see Endgame, and I dragged you to Captain Marvel already. So
Oh, that's true. I already forgot about Captain Marvel.
that's fair. You didn't like it, and
So I might see more than 2 movies this year.
that's right.
Cool.
I saw the trailer for Joker. I know this isn't a movie podcast, but it looks great. Oh, it looks interesting because Joaquin Phoenix is a great actor, and it'll be interesting to see this guy's backstory. But I guess I never really cared about the Joker's backstory. Part of my appeal to him, like in Dark Knight, was
that you don't know the backstory.
and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like the fact that he keeps giving this made up story about how he got his scars, like that's perfect because he's not a person with a history. He's just this.
He's like a chaotic element.
That's exactly
Yeah.
it. Yeah, he's a force of chaos.
I would not consider whatever backstory they come up with in Joker to be canon anyway. I'd be like, this is one apocryphal story of how the Joker came to be.
Cool.
Yeah.
The legend of the Joker.
Yes, exactly.
Sounds
One
fun.
among many. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
I kind of think of him like Jack Slash from Worm. In actually a lot of ways. Like I think that's important because there's a power classification called Trump that's not really understood, but it interacts with other people's powers.
Okay.
And Jack Slash has that. His overt power is fairly mundane, but I feel like Joker has a Trump classification.
Yeah.
Because like his weird plans just keep working and he never gets hurt, and it's just so he's the Trump powered person in the DCU. So
Cool.
okay. We have other stuff to talk about that's more in line with the show. Well, more in line with the spirit of the show. We talk about too much of this for it not to be in line with the show anyway. So.
That's true.
That said, if you don't listen to the Doof Media episode until you've seen the show or seen Endgame,
Right.
Or at least listen to the spoiler-free.
Yeah,
part.
listen to the spoiler-free part, fine. But I also give this an admonition in the episode. But really, if you don't know what happens in the movie yet, don't spoil it for yourself. It's so much fun, and the trailers did a good job about not showing like the core plot elements, unlike every other fucking trailer out there. So
I avoided all the trailers just
Yeah, I
in
haven't
case.
seen any either.
I watched one after I saw the movie.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. I managed to get into my seat without having seen the poster for the movie.
Nice.
So, yeah, it wasn't
Did
as
they
hard.
walk you blindfolded through the theater?
I just looked down at the ground. I averted my gaze, and if I saw the poster, I just didn't focus on it. It was fun. This time, it was more fun than it was. Like this was more fun this year than it was last year, where I was like crazy on guard about it.
Right.
This year, I let my technology do a lot of the work for me. I put on Reddit filters. I put on filters on YouTube ads that like they wouldn't even like recommend videos with the word Avengers or Captain America in the title.
You know what I think would be a great Facebook feature? To be able to tag your posts with this is a spoiler for this movie or this episode or whatever, and then people can opt out of seeing those posts, and once they've seen the episode, toggle a switch where now they see the post, so you can have conversations with people. Here's the thing. I have been forced to only talk about like Game of Thrones and Avengers movies with people in real life face to face, because if I post it on Facebook, someone could see it.
Yeah, Facebook has the awkward thing where you can put a whole bunch of periods to drop your text behind the Seymour.
Yeah.
But it's awkward and clunky. I forget which platform has this. Maybe Discord.
Tumblr has that
Or Tumblr.
feature too.
There's
does
that ability where like, you'll just see like black boxes. And, like you'll write the word like, spoilers, click to
Reddit does
reveal,
that.
and you just
Yeah.
Reddit.
Yeah.
Like Facebook could easily implement something like that, and I think it would resolve a lot of disputes with friends.
It's like after I finally saw the episode 3 of Game of Thrones this season, I wanted to talk about it with people, but like everyone had already talked about it that was going to, and on Facebook rather, and everyone who wasn't doing the spoiler posting, right? I was like, I would have loved right now to be able to toggle that switch and have all those episode 3 posts pop up so I could go through them and talk about them. Instead, I was forced to actually see people in the real world, and
I hate that.
Oh man. Actually, I kind of like that, but I disliked having to wait.
And I was kidding.
wanted the instant gratification.
We could record the show remotely, but we don't because it's fun seeing people.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so we have other
Yes.
Bayesian conspiracy things.
The less wrong post, first one was priors as mathematical objects. And I pulled out nothing in this post because I didn't understand it.
Great. I was just gonna be like, all right, someone explain this to me.
Oh, okay. Did any of us understand this post?
The important thing that he's getting at, and like, this is one of his, I think, least well communicated posts. And it's not just him flexing how well like he understands all this stuff. It's, I don't know. I mean, and there's I think maybe necessary math for the point that he's making. But my understanding is that the point that he's making is that like a prior probability isn't just like your initial guess based on nothing. It's your running back to that urn example.
Yeah, there were 3 urns, or there were 3 cases rather. One where the urn contains 5 red balls and 5 white balls. The second one would be a random number generator, is deciding which balls are going to be red or white at a certain probability. And then case 3 was a monkey throwing balls into the urn at random.
Right. So if you hand me an urn and ask me before I draw a ball out what I think the color will be with what probability, without telling me which urn it is, I guess I would say roughly 50% just because I have no idea. But that's not really a prior. That's like a complete just guess, right? And then if you told me which urn it was, then I could say, okay, I'm guessing it's this. And then he says I could write a quick Python program that gives me the actual estimates.
Yeah, well, the first one had 5 red and 5 white. So he was saying that in the first round of guessing, if you asked me to guess whether the ball that gets pulled out is going to be red or white, regardless of any of those cases, because they're all about 50-50, you would say 50%. Then when you start pulling balls out, then you have to update each time, because if it were case 1, for example, every red ball that gets drawn makes it less likely that the future balls will be red, because there's now fewer red balls left in the urn, and there's only 5 red and 5 white.
And the next one is Laplace's law of succession, which you can check out in Wikipedia. And then case 3 is return 0.5, because the monkey threw balls in at random, so they're always going to be random pulling out red balls. So he goes through this long explanation of why, if you had like a true probability estimate prior of the background, it would encompass all like 10 to the 24 possibilities of the way the balls could be ordered in the urn, right? The way that you pull them out. Like, what are the odds of you pulling out 4 red ones in a row? Well, that's going to be concentrated in this part of your gigantic grid, right?
But like with every other post of his, I feel like there was a point and I learned something, and in this one I wasn't sure what I was supposed to learn. I still don't know what it means for a prior to be a mathematical object, or what he was getting at with this particular block of text.
Yeah, I'm okay calling this one a wash. There's a good conversation in the comments where a lot of people are just like, can you clarify this? I feel like you're ruining the word prior already has a good definition. Why are you throwing that away? Because it's too confusing for this. And I would say check out the comments and just say this one was weird. We don't have to talk about it for that long. So,
okay.
I mean, I'm okay with that. Do you have anything you want to add, Jess?
No.
That's fair.
All right.
So, what is the intuitive understanding of a prior? Like, because we can talk about that for a minute.
A prior is what I always thought is the belief you already come in having,
or even the belief that you have after some updating. But like, it's your new prior before you get some new information, right?
Right.
So
every time there's a test, you now have a posterior, which becomes your new prior for any further tests.
Yeah. And a lot of these, I'm sure it's his writing because that's most of the Bayesian stuff I read is like, the results of like a diabetes or breast cancer test or something. Like, what are the odds that I think I have diabetes right now? Like, none. Very low. Like, then if you tell me, all right, well, the base rate of diabetes is 1 in 50,000 or something. All right, well, I guess those are my odds then. Then you give me a test and it comes back positive. I'm like, all right, well, what's the odds of a false positive? Right. Times that by the other factors, like, am I in the demographics that typically have diabetes or something. And it's like you update based on those numbers, but like your prior to start out is just like this kind of fuzzy, I don't know. And so it's in the hypothesis testing chapter of Methods of Rationality where Harry's running through his head thinking about, okay, well, we'll call the odds of any wizard surviving their death, like 1 in a million, and, after attempting a resurrection ritual, 1 in 10,000 or something. But he's just like making these numbers up. But that's because he has nothing to work with, right? So he's setting high priors, or like, I guess, low numbers, but high, these estimates, just to like have some numbers to envelope, get an estimate on whether or not Voldemort's alive, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing you can do, but without information, you're just completely spitballing, and that's completely acknowledged in the chapter too. So.
Yeah, but at least it gives you a way to start thinking about the problem.
Right, because if you say, I have no idea, therefore I can't think about it, I can't even approach it, that's useless.
Right. I've heard someone say that anything worth thinking about is worth thinking about with made-up numbers.
When you don't have real numbers available.
Yes.
I like it. Perfect. All right, that's the point of this post.
Okay, then. So going on to one which I found much more interesting. Lotteries, a waste of hope.
A waste?
A waste of hope.
But I could win.
Eliezer comes down firmly anti-lottery on this, and I am with him, maybe because that's just how I was raised, so I already got the emotional feeling that they're awful. But Eliezer says some lottery advocates have tried to defend lottery ticket buying as a rational purchase of fantasy. Paying $1 for a day's worth of pleasant anticipation, imagining yourself a millionaire.
So this is the Powerball lottery thing, right? Not your average, like, so a dollar scratcher, I think you have like a 1 in 4 chance of winning your money back.
Which still you're exchanging money for like...
Yeah, for a 75% chance of nothing,
Yeah.
but those are way better odds. And I won $300 in a scratcher once, so for all my...
Did you really?
All my lottery investments, I'm ahead. So I'm done buying lottery tickets because I've already won the lottery and then I've come out on top. So.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have 1 in 4 chance of getting your money back, then basically every time you buy one, you're spending 75 cents.
Yeah.
Okay. Just for the heck of it.
But what's fun is I was making like $9 an hour at a job that sold lottery tickets. I'd buy a couple a night because I was crazy bored, and I needed maybe he just doesn't understand what it's like to be desperately poor and bored. But
Yeah.
Well,
I
and like
think
then
he
there's
does.
maybe he does, but like I'm just staring at him all the time, and I'm like, all right, well, fuck it, and yeah, then I won $300. I was like, all right, cool, I'm not buying anymore. That's it, I won.
I mean, I've heard people say lotteries are a tax on people who are bad at math, but I've always understood the math of the lottery, and the few times I was actually really, really tempted to play the lottery, it's not because I suddenly had like some kind of math stupidity come over me. It's because I was desperate. I was like, I don't know what else I can do. At least this is something.
Yeah.
So it's a tax on the desperate, which is again taking advantage of the most vulnerable.
I have been to casinos before and played slot machines. It was kind of it's kind of fun going to the casino. It's a neat environment. There's like good restaurants and bars and like entertainment there. And if you go with friends, it can be kind of fun. So it's
And if
kind
you're
of
gambling,
like,
they bring you free drinks.
yeah. Well, I was kind of I'm not if you're playing slots.
Really?
I don't think so.
I don't play slots, so I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
if you're playing cards, they do.
So it kind of like was, I'm using this money to purchase this experience to like socialize with friends, be in this wacky environment where like they made this indoor representation of like the Taj Mahal or whatever the heck. Still not like, I felt very uncomfortable there too though. It was something that I would do occasionally and be like, haha, that was a thing. But also casinos, yeah, are places where like you see some really desperate people that go there and just get addicted to pulling the slot machine lever.
I've seen those people, and that's weird. They'll come in and they clearly like live on that stool, and there are like regulars. Yeah, if they live in town, they'll come in every day and spend whatever, a few bucks or something.
Yeah, I forget the name of it, but it's like the pigeon experiment where they have the if you pull the lever and it regularly gives a pellet, then they'll just pull it when they're hungry. But if they randomize how many pellets they'll get,
And
then they'll just they get addicted to it.
They
pull it
also
all the
develop
time.
weird superstitions. The pigeons too. They'll think like, well, last time I got a pellet, I turned like in 2 left circles or 2 counterclockwise circles. So I'll do that every time.
Right.
And you can train pigeons to do really weird shit by giving them pellets at a controlled thing or at random. They'll develop their own weird things. Yeah, that's my thought with casinos is like it's a weird place, like to go have an expensive time if that's what you feel like doing. I think your odds with cards are typically better than with slots. Well, they definitely are than with slots if you know what you're doing.
You can do penny slots.
You can do penny slots,
But
I usually just go there.
I would
thinking-
spend like $20.
Yeah, and it's a way too to just go in and like, where else can you smoke indoors and like there's all this, but like
another reason not to go to a casino.
But like I bought some cigars last time I was at a casino that you could smoke at just because I felt like I was breaking the rules. So it was just like this is so eccentric and weird.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of experience.
Yeah, I enjoy having weird experiences, and I feel like it was worth $20.
Yeah,
But we're not talking about casinos. We're talking about the lottery.
that's
yeah,
right.
well, that's what I'm having trouble understanding why lottery tickets kind of generate that same feeling. I guess it's a very like muted version of that feeling of the pulling the lever.
It's like they said, like the commenters said, or a commenter said anyway, some people are just paying for a fantasy that they enjoy.
Right, and he goes on that in the next post. But yeah, I think Jess, I'm understanding you're bringing up casinos is like, because this has none of the fun of a casino. This is none of the
Yeah,
experience. You
that's what
buy
I was
it, you
trying
go
to
home,
get
you
at.
lose, and you do that every day. Yeah, so that is weird. Before we move on, really quick, is there a number where if the lottery was at $1 trillion where you buy tickets?
I actually,
There has to be, right?
there is, yes, and I have done it for a few times when the Powerball just went to the point where it was a net positive.
I did
Like,
too.
and fine.
I bought two. It would have been like 10 years ago. I bought a couple of tickets because it was like $480 million or something, and it was like. It was some ridiculous number, and I was like, all right, whatever the number is that's high enough for me to spend $2. And then I bought them, and I didn't know how to check who won, like what the numbers were.
Right.
So I never checked. And so
It probably wasn't you.
it probably wasn't me. I can sleep soundly knowing that I wouldn't have won.
Well, because if there's ever a jackpot winner and no one claims it for a few days, it starts being on the news. They're like, somebody has won $200 billion but hasn't claimed it yet. Who could this mystery person be?
Yeah, it was funny though. All right, so back to our actual show.
Yeah, so Eliezer has a problem with this saying that it's buying a fantasy because he says you're occupying your valuable brain with a fantasy whose real probability is nearly zero, which makes the lottery another kind of sink, a sink of emotional energy. It encourages people to invest their dreams, their hopes for a better future, into an infinitesimal probability. If not for the lottery, maybe they would fantasize about going to technical school, or opening their own business, or getting a promotion at work.
For $1 a day.
Things that they might be able to actually do, hopes that would make them want to become stronger. Their dreaming brains might, in the 20th visualization of the pleasant fantasy, notice a way to really do it. Isn't that what dreams and brains are for?
That's good writing.
Yeah. But how can you compare that to the artificial sweetened flavor of limitless wealth? Yeah, and this is the post where he says the human brain can't devalue the emotional force of a pleasant anticipation by a factor of 0.00001, whatever it is. He doesn't actually come out and say it's so low that the activation, it should activate less than one neuron in your brain to be equivalent.
Right.
Which I know I mentioned that a few episodes back about thinking about God. And I swear I got that from the lottery post, but he doesn't say it in here. Maybe he says it in a different one, or maybe...
Might be the next one.
Maybe a commenter said it. I know I didn't come up with that myself.
Yeah,
Well,
that sounds really familiar.
I'm going to give you 25% chance that that's an original Eneasz that you...
No. It's I heard that somewhere.
Yeah, I thought when you said that, I thought it was from this post too.
Yeah.
So maybe I didn't read the comments though. But yeah, basically it's all right. So do we have much else to add? Because I've got a good leading question into the next one.
No, go for your question.
I mean, so for $1 a day, because you can't go to technical school for $1 a day.
No.
You know, but you can buy a lottery ticket. So what else can I do to give me the same? Like, if hope makes me a little less miserable every day, what else can I buy with $1 that would give me anything of value?
I mean, anything that's worth $1, really.
Well, I guess, like, if I already, okay, well, the next post is called an improved lottery.
You could buy this improved lottery ticket.
Yeah.
I see what you were trying to do. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that layup. Is that the correct sports term? Catch the layup?
I think the layup's
sure.
supposed to go in the basket.
I know that layup is a two-person thing. Then you got to help each other out. It's something like that, where like one person throws and the other person dunks it or some shit.
Oh, maybe it is. I think you're right. Because
I
you
don't
lay
know
them
sports,
up.
man.
Yeah. God, we're such nerds. That said, basketball is one of my favorite sports to watch.
It's the one that's actually got some exciting stuff going on almost all the time.
And you can see the play object, the ball. Like, hockey's fun. They're moving a lot, but I often lose sight of the puck.
Right.
That said, speaking of casinos, my favorite thing to watch, and I've mentioned this before, but there's a bar right next... Well, I didn't mention this part. There's a bar right next to my house that we kind of just discovered. And once in a while, they have cards up on the TV. And I love watching high-stakes poker. If there was a service that I could... there maybe is, so I shouldn't say anything because I'll probably get it. So I'll point me to it. But if like it was $10 a month that I could have the high-stakes poker channel and nothing else, I'd probably have that. Because I don't want to pay for a cable package just to watch this once in a while. But it's really fun, and I can't find a good website. Just watch it. So.
Really? They don't have it on like YouTube? Or...
I found some YouTubes, but the ones that I could find that were like, I like to just have it on the background for like a few hours. And the only ones I could find like that was some asshole like talking over the the thing. And I could leave it on mute like they do in the bars.
It's like the video game reviews. Hey guys.
Yeah. Well,
it's me, Evan, and today I'm going to talk. Oh my God, stop.
It was like he was like doing a podcast talking about these people, but that was my one experience watching a 4-hour video. But anyway, cards is fun to watch if you're me. I don't know why.
Okay.
That's as into sports as I get. Okay.
Well, that's like a cerebral sport.
You're into the sports where you don't actually move your body.
That's right. The less motion, the better.
You move your hands a bit.
Chess, chess is right up there.
Right. You don't even need a body to play chess nowadays.
That's right. There is chess boxing.
What?
I've heard about this.
Go
Is this like Wizard's chess?
No, go to YouTube, type in chess boxing. They play chess, they get up and hit each other, and they go back to playing chess.
Yeah, 3 minutes of chess and 3 minutes of boxing, because the boxing round is 3 minutes.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And the winner is whoever checkmates the other person or knocks the other person out.
Which is the best.
Wait, can I also do a sports tangent?
Yeah.
Sure.
One of my coworkers is trying to start a league for extreme taser ball.
Extreme taser ball?
Which I looked up, and yeah, it's a sport that involves this ridiculously large ball. It looks like a big beach ball or something, and tasers.
Do you tase each other?
You tase each other.
Oh my god.
That sounds like a good time, kind of. Once. I would try it.
I'm kind of scared, but I'm also tempted to try it, just so I could tell people what sport I play, and they can give me horrified looks.
Don't those things hook into your skin?
What, taser? No, you're thinking, whatever, stun guns.
Uh-huh.
Those shoot out little cords that you pull the trigger and electrocutes you. Tasers just have the arc of electricity that you can hit somebody with.
You want to know something fun that I believe I learned from reading rationalist fiction?
What?
It's the other way around. Stun guns are the things you hold in your hand that you zap someone with personally, and the things that you shoot at people are called tasers. Even though you don't, like, the stun gun is a personal weapon, right? It's a melee weapon. It doesn't shoot out, but it's called a stun gun.
That's hilarious. Okay, I got it backwards because it makes more sense the other way, but I guess history had the other way. That's hilarious. Yeah. And I think that's true because I have a stun gun that I lost the charger for in like 2009, so it was $20, but I want to buy another one because what's fun about them, then we'll finish the stuff.
What's not fun about them, really?
What's fun is they're super loud.
Yeah, that noise is like just frightening.
So even if the person isn't like, what am I saying? The noise itself is a deterrent. It's like, it's crazy crackling loud electricity that is uncomfortably loud from across the house. Mm-hmm. So you pull this thing out and you don't have to hit them to freak them out. So, yeah.
Like I've never been hit by a stun gun, but I imagine that I'm more scared of the sound than I actually would be by the effect of being hit by it.
You say like, that so you're laying down in your own piss, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, really?
It depends how hard and where they get you, but
okay.
If you get in the abdomen, it'll flex everything and you'll fall over. So.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Well, never mind then.
I don't know if the pee yourself rate is at 100%, but it's not at 0%.
All right, what were we talking about?
The new improved lottery.
With no tasers. So the new improved lottery ticket also only costs $1, but it pays out at random once every 5 years on average at a random time. You don't know exactly when it's going to pay out, just sometime in the next 5 years it pays out. That adds to the hope factor.
And more importantly, it lets you fantasize about it all the time, as opposed to just these predetermined moments on certain evenings where you buy the ticket one time. So this is not quite Eliezer's exact words. He was more eloquent. But boss comes in, demands something annoying. Instead of getting to work, turn on your phone and you stare, hoping for that call. Because there is an epsilon chance that, at that exact moment, you could be awarded the grand prize. Even if it doesn't happen this minute, there's no need to be disappointed. It could happen the next minute. And so you got that perpetual fantasy of like, I could win right now. Now.
Yeah, you don't have to tune in at 6 or whenever they draw the balls and check. So the hope lasts all day.
At any moment, your phone could buzz. Also says you could go even further. The new improved lottery could even show a constantly fluctuating probability distribution of the likelihood to win. So it's not always the same likelihood at every second. And they could have the likelihood of particular numbers being higher at certain times. So think of how much fun that would be. Right this minute, the chance to win occurring is nearly 10 times higher than usual. And look, the number 42 that I selected for the Mega Ball has nearly twice the usual chance of winning. You could feed it to display on people's cell phones so they could just flip open the cell phone and see their chance of winning, and they could stay glued to that screen all day. They would never need to dream about anything else. Which really puts into perspective kind of the whole they're selling a dream to people, right?
Yeah, it's a very poignant way to rebuttal that point.
Yeah, like this is a fucked up horror world where no one's dreaming about anything else in their lives except this tiny lottery chance. I also, when I reread this, I kind of got the feeling that, holy shit, this is a lot like writing. Because when you write short stories, at least, you write a short story and then you send it off to a paying market and then you wait. You check your email every day. Maybe you check it 2 or 3 times a day because you never know when that email is going to come in saying, hey, guess what? Your story wasn't quite right for us. And, there's that small chance that it'll say, your story is great. We would like to publish it and let all our readers see how awesome of a writer you are. And if that doesn't work, then you take it and you go to the next magazine and maybe they will give you that. So a lot of writers' life is that you're paying for a lottery ticket by writing a story. So with, dozens of hours of labor, and then for months and months you can live in that, fantasy and eventually get rejected. But still, months of fantasy time.
But do you have fun writing?
I do have fun writing.
So there's some value to that too.
Yeah, there is.
Unlike the casino, going to the gas station to buy a lottery ticket isn't like a fun experience like for a lot of people, right?
Right.
So at least there's something else that you're getting out of it.
And I also think this is kind of like the effect that makes Twitter as popular as it is. People could reply to you at any point or retweet your thing at any point. You never know when something might go viral. It just, like this random payout thing is pretty huge.
And yeah, we are seeing it take off. And this was before Twitter.
It's fairly ubiquitous too. A lot of mobile games explicitly use that kind of psychology.
And this post came out before Twitter, and yet that function's built into the platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that kind of a lot of life is like this. Like, there's a lot of times where you don't know if what you're doing is going to result in what you want to happen, but you go and you do it anyway, and you hope for the best.
I mean, there's no way we're going to get rid of that.
Yeah.
But living your life on those hopes is...
What if you have UBI and then you are writing and you're just releasing your works online for free because you have that income?
I mean, like, you send a text message to somebody like, do you want to go on a date? The waiting for a reply, that minute of hope, like, you're not going to get rid of every minute of, like, that anticipating a hopeful response to your efforts.
I don't think I would want to get rid of anticipating a hopeful response to your efforts. It's just I think the thing that is bad about lotteries is that it's basically zero. Your chances of winning it is essentially zero.
Yeah, me too. I wasn't making that point that I think it's a bad thing. I was just saying that level, that we could do away with the bad parts, the bad ways to feed that thing, and there'll still be real parts of that left in your life, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But there's a lot of life like that where you're like, I don't know if the harvest is going to be good or bad this year, but I'm going to go ahead and plant my crops anyway and hope for the best. And like, a lot of life is just doing what you can and hoping things work out. And I kind of get the impression we're almost like built for this sort of world where you put in effort and you don't have a guaranteed return and got to hope for it instead.
Yeah,
we have inner pigeons.
There's we do for sure, but I think that like something like planting your crops has a higher probability of getting some kind of return out of it than the essentially zero chance you have from the lottery. Same thing with
I absolutely
asking
agree.
someone on a date online. Maybe that's like a 50-50 chance that they'll say yes.
No,
and even sending a story in is like you don't literally have like a basically zero chance of getting published.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean the lottery is definitely the extreme stimulus, the
super stimulus,
the super stimulus version of taking things that we're naturally wired for and just going fucking wild with it to take advantage of the human wiring. But,
and particularly like in the case of casinos or mobile games, to take advantage of people who have addictive personalities.
Well, I think all of us have addictive personalities.
Yeah, but some people have it much worse than others.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, many of us would get bored sitting at the slot machine pulling it, for 4 hours a day after work every day. Yeah. And most of us, that sounds like hell. And yet they've got, there's a number of factors, but probably one of them is they've got nothing better to do. So they sit there and just sit there and keep hoping,
Yeah, it tends to target like vulnerable populations.
Yeah.
I tend to think this is one of the reasons that video games are popular, because they have a guaranteed reward. If you put in the effort, you get the thing. And there's none of this like, oh, maybe I'll put in a ton of effort and never get anything out of it. And I mean, that's less the case nowadays with the games that have the random reward thing put in. But for a lot of games before the more recent spate of what do they call them, casino games even?
There's like a loot, what's the word for it? Loot lottery?
Yeah. Loot lottery.
Gachapon?
Yeah. It's
like Destiny. Like,
yes.
So you'd have to coordinate like a 90-minute raid with, 6 or 10 people to get a 2% job rate for the cool piece of loot.
Yeah,
and
tons
those
of
games
games are like
suck.
that now. Yeah. But there was a time where like, if you go out and you grind mobs for X hours, you get Y experience, which will eventually lead to you being better.
Many games are still like that.
Yeah.
And what makes them attractive is that like video games work that way and life doesn't.
Yes.
Like, you can go out and work hard all day and do whatever you can.
And then your kid gets malaria and dies anyway.
Right. So, yeah. The controllable aspect of that is, nice as well. And save files. When are we going to get those for real life?
Yeah. Eliezer ends with saying, if you believe that the lottery is a service, it is clearly an enormously overpriced service. charged to the poorest members of society, and it is your solemn duty as a citizen to demand the new improved lottery instead.
What I love is that, like, that's the closest he gets to saying, like, fuck you to the commenter who put that out there. It's like, all right, if you believe that, here's the logical extension of your belief, and now you're clearly an asshole.
Here's the horoscape you want.
That's right.
We've only got like 10 minutes left, guys.
We've got to thank this week's patron,
We do got to do that.
and then we've got at least time for maybe at least one feedback.
All right, let's do one feedback.
All right. So this week, or this episode, I say week. We need I think to save the confusion, we need to start doing this every week, but we'll see.
Maybe once we've all retired?
Deal.
Okay.
So this episode, we're thanking Michael Rushena. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. I do the same mumbling every time, and now I do the same apologizing for mumbling every time. But you rock. Thanks, Michael.
Pretty soon you can apologize for apologizing.
That's right.
Yeah, Michael, you're awesome. Everyone who listened, you're all awesome, and all of our supporters are awesome. But Michael, especially this week.
Today is your day to be appreciated.
Heck yeah.
Yay.
Now you can play this to your friends so they can know how awesome you are. And that you help bring this podcast to them.
So this came in from Oren Millman on Patreon. So they'd said, please validate us, said Jess in the Reach episode. Just so you know, you're all really awesome.
Yay.
Smiley face.
I know. And on a more personal level, in the last days, I've quite resolved.
That's
right.
Perhaps he is British. Perhaps they are British.
To find a job in the clean meat industry.
Yeah.
I think that regularly listening to the podcast, as well as various audio stuff by Eneasz, significantly strengthens my connection to the rationality and EA communities and helps internalize their ideas. Thus, you definitely deserve some credit for my decision. So thank you.
That's awesome.
And I wrote back and said that means a lot, and I'd make sure to share it with you guys. And that's why I do the show. Like,
thank you for telling us.
We're not gonna, I don't want to be like the person that changes people's lives in big ways, but
I do.
A force for good in that, if my life was changed in many ways by like the smallest factors. I told somebody, the guy who got me into computer industry, that like, hey, I did this because of the thing you recommended. He's like, holy shit. And he was really made uncomfortable by that because he kind of just had this offhand thing. And I was like, yeah, I have you to thank for it. And he's like, that is an uncomfortable amount of responsibility. And I'm like, that's life, dude.
Yeah.
You're going to be touching people's lives left and right. And
I had someone tell me that they put off marriage because of the episode that we did. Am I allowed to name that person? Okay.
That is correct.
So yes, so Jess mentioned that they put off marriage because of my marriage option, and I was like, okay, it's a little scary to be like, someone made that big of a decision because of something I said. What if it was the wrong decision? Now it's all my fault.
No, it was the right decision, and you made a really excellent argument.
Oh, thank you. But
not good enough because you're coming to my wedding. So.
Yes, I know. But it is kind of scary having people make decisions based on something you said because you don't want to be wrong, and then they'll hate you forever, or you'll just feel guilty. But on the other hand, I mean, that's why we do this, right? So yeah. But I do want to say, we always thank the patron for making us feel appreciated and awesome, and it is true. They always do. Again, thank you for this week's patron, and thank you to all our patrons. But like, just talking back with us on the subreddit always warms my heart a little bit because I'm like, oh, people listen to this and they think about it, and sometimes they even have comments to tell us back, So feedback is also an appreciation of a sort. It makes me feel like I'm part of a community and that what I have been doing is valued in a way that, I mean, money also does. They both do it in their own different ways.
You've said before that money is the unit of caring, but so is time.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Most of my dialogue with post podcast stuff is people real life who message me, who listen to the show, and that's valuable to me. It's interesting that that's the point of a podcast, unless it's like a story that you're telling or whatever. But that's the point of this podcast, is conversational things. And if you have conversations with us or with each other or with people in your lives, that's really great.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's kind of what I was thinking about when you were talking about publishing stories. And I just like the idea of like, if we had UBI, then people could just publish stories and put them online for free, and then more people could read them. And then it would be a much better experience for you as the author because people would be reading them and commenting, and it would be out there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We are unfortunately out of time, so we're going to have to wrap this up and get back to the other feedbacks later on.
Sounds good.
Cool. Because we do have a few more in here that we want to hit, but that'll be next week.
But now we're doing at least one every week, every episode. So
so they don't build up as much, at least.
That's right.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you guys for being here with me as well.
Thank you, everyone. Looking
Yeah.
at you too.
Yeah. And we'll see you all in a couple weeks.
Good night, everybody.